Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mania 4-Key World Cup 2021 for our second stream of this tournament. The first stream was you guys watching the Mappool for qualifiers, and we are here to reveal the results. My name is Halogen, and I am here with Raviel. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty excited, really. There's some really interesting teams.
Yeah, this has been a very different dynamic for a lot of the players here. And we got a lot of seasoned players who have been participating in the World Cup, and we have a lot of new faces too. And this is an entirely new process. Raviel, you want to talk about that for those who might not be aware?
Oh yeah, so group stage is now scrapped. We are going from qualifier straight to round of 32. So that means that the top 32 of this qualifier stage will be automatically placed in the brackets next weekend. So we will actually be seeing a few eliminated teams today.
That is correct. And for those unfamiliar with the process, the teams who wanted to get a shot at playing in the Cup this year had to play an 8-song qualification map pool. And essentially the best scores as a unit were taken to accumulate the total scores. And that's how the seeding was done. So a little bit of a different dynamic there, and some of the results will show this difference in dynamic, which I'm really excited to reveal.
Yeah, I've already seen the leaderboard for a few of the maps, and there were a lot of surprising ones up there.
No doubt. Yeah, with that being said, I think we should just get right onto it to figure out or to explain or show all of the teams who have qualified to actually participate in the tournament this time around. So at the very bottom of our qualification attempts, we have Latvia, who for the most part was at the bottom of the pack. A couple of picks here where they actually managed to scrape away from the very bottom. They're actually the two toughest qualification maps, kind of scraping just a tiny bit above the absolute bottom there.
Yeah, I mean, with a 4-player roster as well, like the burden being shared a lot more significantly between the players instead of like a 6-player roster. Definitely hurt them with most of the anti-meta stuff like the SVs and the LNs.
And Latvia, first time trying to get into the Mania World Cup. They'd never had participated in the event before, so unfortunately we still won't be seeing them, but hopefully this gives them the drive to potentially come back and try to qualify in.
Yeah. Then we can move on to the 37th seed, which we have Turkey. So Turkey's SV though, definitely a lot better than the few lower seeds here.
Yeah, and sharing a very similar issue, as you mentioned, with Latvia, having to kind of split the burden amongst 4 players. This qualification map pool was not that easy, so having to play through this 8-song qualifier twice, probably a little bit on the taxing side, and probably difficult to really peek out your scores. Yeah, moving on from Turkey, in number 36, we are going to have Ukraine. Ukraine differing from the previous teams in that they have a little bit of a deeper roster, 5 players, but unfortunately just not really able to scratch too far from the bottom there, getting second to last in the SVs and hovering just around the bottom group of players here. But again, another team who had not really had the exposure to the Mania World Cup before, and hopefully they can come back and actually try to build that team a little bit stronger and qualify for the next attempt.
They're just like Latvia in that they have a better stage 7 and 8 than the rest. We can move on to 35. It'll be another newcomer, which will be Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal finding a couple of scores that actually measured on an individual level were good enough or sufficient enough to qualify, seeing stage 3 and stage 4 at rank 32. Again, very similar circumstances as some of the previous teams, not a deep roster, and being stuck with only 4 players makes it really difficult. I'd imagine Rodrigov being 202 in global rank probably helped a little bit with some of these harder songs, but unfortunately one cannot carry the team here, and that's why Portugal probably sitting at 35. Moving on upward, as we get very close to the qualification cutoff, we have Uruguay in seed 34. Starting to see a few more songs here that are actually worthy of qualification for the event, but just not enough as a unit to piece everything together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of us are familiar with the player Eternal and also known as Anmao, who set some pretty interesting scores across the board.
Yeah, imagine a solid force on that team. And just need to essentially build that unit to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more in depth. And moving on upward, as we get very close, we find our bubble team, Norway, seed 33, just barely missing the cutoff to participate in this tournament here, actually getting 29th on the stage 8 qualifier, so certainly showing a little bit of physical prowess compared to previous Norway teams.
Indeed, and unfortunately they will be short by about 0.5 or 1.5 rating to the 32nd seed, so congratulations to them. But they did a pretty good job, like you said, on stage 8.
But with that, every other team who is being announced at this point has officially qualified to participate in the Mania World Cup. They will be seeing at least 2 map pools as we hit this double elimination structure. In 32nd, we have Belgium. Belgium actually flexing a little bit on one of the picks there, seeing a seed 21 far above what they were expecting. Seems to be falling off a little bit on the more physical maps that test difficulty just a little bit more aggressively.
Yeah, definitely. I can consider Belgium to be one of the scarier L-Land forces in the bottom half here.
And
Okay, moving on to the
moving on up.
We got a
31.
debut.
Oh, we have a debut team. Hello, Colombia. For the first time ever, Colombia will be participating in the Mania World Cup at seed number 31.
Yeah, so particularly the reason why Colombia is up here, you can see most of their rankings, that there aren't any anomalies, there aren't anything that really goes high and beyond. They're all really compact within like 28th to 30th, with just a few exceptions like the SV map.
Yeah, it seems like we got a little bit of a prowess in long notes there. 28 in Gario Tensei. Gario Tensei was not a trivial long note map, that's for sure.
Oh, no, yeah.
Very excited to see how they actually fare in the context of the tournament itself. But as we continue on with our qualifying candidates there, we have Germany at seed number 30.
Yeah, Germany surprised me with how high they placed in stage 1.
Yeah, putting work on the SV pick there, seed 25, certainly far above what their actual seed was. And in general, like the previous team, a decent compression of ranks throughout everything else there. So getting a solid representation throughout the battery of maps that are used to test your positioning here.
Yeah, we can move on to number 29. That'll be Switzerland. Just like the last few teams, quite compact ranks, except for stage 3, mostly 27s, 28, 29.
Yeah, stage 3 not looking that great compared to the other results. They're about a solid average throughout, just very consistent results. And a pretty veteran team. I think a good majority of these faces have participated in the Mania World Cup before, so certainly familiar territory, and they'll be trying to vie for a little bit of a deeper attempt in this tournament.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that their team is like almost the same as last year's.
Very close indeed. Moving on. Number 28, we have Finland, and very clearly we have a little bit of a standout there. A certain team benefiting from a certain thing. Raviel, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I already expected Finland to be very interesting this year because their roster, even though they've only kept like Lovelin and Streichi and Viable, they managed to bring back one of the more interesting tournament players in Camo. And then they also have some wildcards like Sauna and Fizu, so I'm a little bit surprised at stage 1, not that surprised.
Yeah, we have half of this roster participated in the World Cup last year, and then one of the players on there, Sonic Klanku, was somebody who had a little bit of experience in team-oriented competition in 40M3, I believe, 2 or 3, one of those 2 tournaments.
Yeah, I think so.
And Lovely N, not much to be said about them. That's just they're extremely strong as a player, solid long note abilities. I think Finland could be someone to be not to be slept on. Be very careful. Seed number 5, whoever you are, you'll be up against them.
They're gonna be the anti-meta team, I can see. Alright, next up, Venezuela, seed 27. That's stage 8. That's another surprising one.
Yeah, so when you got a situation like this where you have your qualifier results and you have a team that their best rank is on the hardest physical qualifier of the pool, that says something about the team, the kind of team that they are. And all we can hope is that Venezuela gets the opportunity to push a little bit deeper to actually showcase that prowess. Solid team, very well a few of them pretty solid at Rice in general, and I'm really interested to see how they actually exercise that.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't played since 2019, so this is basically just a fresh new team for them.
All right, and moving on, at seed number 26, we have Sweden.
We're actually starting to see a few of these anomaly ranks. You can see stage 2 there.
Yeah, excelling a little bit on Phonedrome. Generally compacted scores outside of that. Radiant and Phonedrome being two pretty good representations of what you would expect for Sweden, being pretty solid. They're decent. They have a history for being decently well-rounded, and I think Phonedrome kind of showcases that just a little bit.
Yeah, they're gonna be pretty strong early game.
All right, moving on up from Sweden, at seed number 25, we have Taiwan.
Yeah, again, another anomaly case of stage 1, 18th.
A pretty good average throughout the rest of the songs here, and a couple of familiar faces there. Mostly in Fola, who's an extremely talented player. I'm hoping that as the captain, they get to kind of like draw the rest of the team into, you know, some of their tendencies. I could see Taiwan being a decently threatening team depending on the type of pool that they're up against, and that would be up against seed number 8 when the tournament comes. So might want to watch out there. Not going to be an easy time.
Yeah, and they also brought back Reiru and Chang Panda from last year. So just half of the squad from last year already playing this year. Yeah, we're gonna move on to the low seeds, I guess.
This would be considered the bottom of the low seeds, yes, since we just finished through the unseeded if we were going through group stages here. And at number 24, we have Australia.
Yeah, Australia last year, they were high seed, didn't make out of the groups. But this year, they'll have another chance to try and go far in the bracket with a 17th on Radiant, 14th on Kaleidoscope.
That's an interesting set of scores out of the top 20 there. Those two kind of showcases some potential ability to be a little bit more threatening in the earlier stages.
Definitely, whoever they face in the first round. Want to take some notes.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in seeing their overall team. I know that Adrenaline and Nerd Guy particularly had some good exposure in 40M, the 40M circuit as well.
Yeah.
And I believe Alternation is a new name to just MWC circuit in general, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, they're definitely new to me, so I think so.
Moving on from Australia at seed number 23. Wow, that's a little bit of a surprise that we have Poland.
Yeah, from one high seed eliminated in groups to another high seed eliminated in groups.
And we've got a clear indicator as to what to look out for Poland.
Stage 1, hello.
Top 5, getting 4th place on the SV map, at a solid score on Kaleidoscope as well. Poland not to be slept on. This is a team full of veterans here in TDEC and CTEC, of course, being very familiar tournament players. The Dark Dragon kind of coming up and coming through the Polish circuit, and then also playing in Soft. And I believe Koloroa and Underjoy also doing extremely well in the Polish circuit as well. So we've got a really solid team here that could do some damage. So definitely look out for Poland, not to be slept on either.
Yeah, this team is extremely experienced as well. TDEC being the only player this year to have played in every Mania World Cup since the first.
Wow, that's a good tidbit of trivia.
Yeah, they're gonna try and bring it all the way, hopefully. Yeah, we can move on to the next team. I'm really excited to see this one now. Netherlands. Before last year, they've only ever made it to the bracket stage in 2015. They managed to upset the high seed Italy last year to make it into the round of 16. And this year they're seeded 22nd.
Yeah, we've got 2 new players on the Netherlands team with regards to MWC in Shoira and Toxic Scent. Too fast for you, very well balanced player, and Bakuretsu extremely threatening as we get further and further into these tournament maps.
And you can definitely see like stage 8 really showing the Vice prowess there.
Yeah, seed 22, but pulling a higher seed than their average overall. Solid Rice team. Very, very good to see.
Yeah, here we go. The next team, Russian Federation, another high seed that didn't make it out of the group stage. Seeded 21st.
And some attention to be paid here, specifically on Garyu Tensei and a Beautiful Degeneracy. Non-trivial maps. Garyu Tensei and Beautiful Degeneracy probably quarterfinals level picks here, and these guys got seed 14. That would put them in the mid-seed area there. So Russia very threatening as the maps get a little bit more difficult. The question is whether or not they can actually get out of these initial stages and showcase that and potentially put that to the test against other teams.
Yeah, they'll definitely have to face one of the slightly lower mid seeds next weekend, so we'll see how they handle that.
We continue the climb up to seed number 20. And hello, Spain. What do we have there at the top?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I opened the Google sheet for the results and I just saw Spain second on stage 1? Like, did I read that right? That is ridiculous.
Number 2 seed on Radiant. Hello. Also, look out for Mariochi Survivor. Not a score to scoff at either. That is a very physical map, and they're sitting in the teens in ranks. So Spain showing that they've got some potency as the maps get a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, but whoever faces Spain, you know what to do. Oh boy, yeah, we're gonna move on to Argentina, seeded 19th. So
yeah, this is a good, well-rounded battery. Like, look at they've got a good distribution of scores throughout. I think a little bit weaker on the SV front, but when you start looking at the more relevant structures and the difficulties intact with them, this is a pretty solid squad.
Yeah, like stage 7 and 8, they did really well.
Something else worth noting here about this particular squad, Argentina is almost an entirely rebuilt team. 4 of the members have not played in MWC before. 2 of them had a little bit of a showcase in 4DMC. And then I believe C90, also known as Crazy COVID, didn't play in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a lot of new faces to the circuit here. And again, not a team to be scoffed at. This is a solid seed. They're a very physical team compared to previous Argentina teams.
And they're going to have a lot of potential going into the round 32. And we shall move on to seed 18, Italy. Again, another team that has a very interesting anomaly score in Mariochi at 11th.
You get both ends of the spectrum there. Their Radiant being quite weak compared to a lot of the rest of the scores. Their SV clearly not treating them very nicely. And this is another team that, in my opinion, you need to subdue early, because this is a team that's very physically capable. You've got, Crybarb and Jersey are both very strong players. And I think when you throw into the mix Corello and Relay, they've got a little bit more of depth in the accuracy and earlier game stuff. So this is going to be an exciting team to watch as well. They could push a little bit deeper than I think people expect.
Yeah, indeed. They'll be facing seed 15, right?
Yeah, seed 15.
Yeah, we'll get to see that really soon. Next up, this is a huge surprise to me, and I'm really happy for them. Peru 17th. I mean, this Peru team, they've never made it out of group stage before. So to see them so high up is just insane. Like, especially that stage 1.
They put in the work where it counted, and it shows big time. Garyu Tensei 19th, not too bad for a seed 17 team. Kaleidoscope hitting the top 10, but also showcasing that they have some really strong physical abilities that's not just reliant on being very consistent. They can handle the changes that you see in something like a Beautiful Degeneracy sitting in 13th. This is a good squad, and they have a lot of potential to go into this tournament. Seed 16, who we're about to find out, Peru is going to be their opponent, and that's not a good position to start off in.
Oh boy. Yeah, just saying, whoever supports 16th, prepare. France is 16th this year. So last year, they managed to get into the top 12. But yeah, this year is gonna be a slight slip away from that. And yep, those players there, they'll be facing Peru next weekend.
A congestion of solid scores right in the middle of the qualifier, stages 3 through 6, all being top 16 or better. So at the very least, France is good where it's going to matter for at least their first opponent. We're going to have a pretty exciting match between France and Italy right at the start of the games. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, that kaleidoscope score is really good. We should move on to the next team, Thailand. Last year, breaking into the top 4 for the first time ever. Only seeded 15th.
Yeah, solid performance last year. Maybe not quite what they hoped in terms of seeding this time around, but that being said, certainly not a team to scoff at. Look at the congestion of good scores. It's going to be really good where it matters. And I can tell you right now, a good majority of this team, they can play and they can play hard. But how to play LN needs no introduction. Miku aimbot, very, very good at accuracy. I've seen them on the leaderboards quite a bit. Shokoha, another solid tournament player. I think actually Jimmy Returns I've seen a little bit on the leaderboards too. This is a good squad that can actually put up a good fight.
Yeah, how to play LN and Jimmy Returns coming back from last year. The other 4 players all brand new, so really interesting to see how they'll play.
And at seed number 14, we have Indonesia. Indonesia finishing 9th place last year. And we have a pretty clear outlier looking at this, and that should make some teams shake just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we all know, well, I would say most of us know Onta Bakassi as one of the really good LN specialists, but I'm a little bit surprised that they are just a good LN unit as a whole.
Yeah, and Indonesia, they've got a decent composition in terms of their team there. We've got some LN specialties, but there's a couple of players here who have incredible physical capabilities, and we see that with I Can't Play and Rei in specific, being specific there. Those 2 players can throw down really hard on some of the more aggressive Rice stuff. They are very strong players. I'm just hoping that we can, again, get them to a position where they can actually showcase that talent.
We shall move on to C13 with your second place 2020 finishers. Will be a high seed this year, so the loss of Intellizer definitely showing, but they're stage 1 and they're stage 8. Pretty decent.
Yeah, you get a good sense of where they stand. This is a pretty well-rounded squad with regards to Rice. However, the loss of Intellizer hurts big time on the long note front. Intellizer was present on a lot of long note picks last year in particular. And it's going to be up to MMU and Nakikaze to come in and try to fill that gap a little bit. This unit is extremely good at non-long note stuff, and I don't think they're going to have too much problem there. It's going to be a matter of covering up that gap in long notes.
Yeah, so another quick shout out to Kuke for getting first in stage 1 for 998213.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
No, it shouldn't surprise anyone. Okay, we'll move on to seed 12, Hong Kong. They were top 12 last year as a low seed. So now they are a high seed. Look at all of these like individual single-digit ranks on stage 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I've got to say, if you would have told me Hong Kong was going to be seed 12, I would not have believed you. This is an extremely good unit here. 4 top 10 qualification results, and half of this team is new. 3 of these players have not participated in MWC before. This is a scary squad.
They're missing Murasame from last year as well.
Yeah, they lose. It hurt a little bit. I can only imagine how much more dangerous this team would be if they had Murasame and Yanafeya, both really strong players. And man, this team is still really strong now. But imagine Murasame on top of this squad. That would be
Oh,
downright terrifying for
That
early
would be
stages.
scary, yeah. Alas, they are seeded 12. That is still a really good seed for them anyways. Another really good seed will be a team returning from the 2019 edition, Chile, with a very interesting stage 5 and 7.
All right, so let's get something straight right here, right now, okay? Chile did not play in the previous World Cup.
No.
5 of the players on this team have never played in the Mania World Cup. The only one who has is Urusai back in 2018. That's right, Miyuka has never played in an MWC. You never know it with how good his tournament play is. But the rest of the squad is also fresh. They have not had the chance to be on this spotlight before.
Indeed, and like you said on Kanochi 3, also known as Miyuka, this dude, he has topped so many of the map leaderboards. I think he topped 4 of them. Topped Phone Drone, topped Gario Tensei, topped Live Flashes, and topped A Beautiful Degeneracy. So 4 of the maps, he has number 1.
Yeah, and it just speaks again that this is a really diverse squad. My hope is that Chile is able to close the familiar gap in long note that they've had present in a while. I think we're going to need to look into, Faz, Rise, Stupid, and Stupid CL, Rise CL, Faz CL, Giande, Rin. Hopefully can help close that gap a little bit.
Indeed. Moving on to another team that placed in the top 6. We have Singapore with some individual really good performances on stuff like Stage 2, Stage 3, Stage 6, and 7.
Yeah, sitting at seed 10, half of their results in the top 10, actually pretty deep into them. We have 2 top 5s here, and very, very solid average scores throughout here. And not only that, but a good battery there. Seed number 5 and seed number 7 on tech and streams at an upper level there, and a respectable Beautiful Degeneracy means that Singapore is actually a pretty potent team in just about every map pool that they touch.
Yeah, but you can definitely see like their composition and that they are a really Rice-based team. You can see that SV and LN just kind of lacking a little bit.
And moving on from Singapore, we have officially hit our single-digit teams, and in number 9, we have Canada. What is that SV rank? Excuse me.
Yeah, you didn't expect Canada to be an SV team?
I am impressed. They put in the work, and it shows big time. Hello.
Piggy really put in the work. Yeah, Piggy got a 997235, second on the leaderboard for Radiant.
Fantastic score, and again, just a good distribution of scores throughout. Not really a major hole present in their overall skill set. We see that 18 in Kaleidoscope, but as the difficulty climbs, we see just a little bit more of that gap being closed in their capability there. And that top 10 on a Beautiful Degeneracy is fantastic.
That's really solid scores all around. We're gonna break into the top 8 now, your top seeds of this year.
The Philippines. Wow.
Yeah, we start with the 7th place of last year.
And their seeds lining up very close to where they finished last year. 7th, 8th tied for that area there. Very good distribution of seeds there. And this unit is terrifying. This team is a scary team. And they're one of those teams that's threatening early, but even more threatening as time goes on. Subdue them as fast as you can, otherwise you are going to regret it.
Definitely. I mean, you can definitely see that they're lacking a little bit on LNs, but their Rise game is secured.
And moving
and
on
now,
up. Oh my.
Here we go. Your 5-time world champions, seeded 7th.
So, that is interesting. What am I calling interesting here, Raviel?
Maybe Gario Tensei? Question mark. What
this
is that?
South Korea
what is that?
team, normally an extremely strong Rice-based team, pulls out number 2 on an upper quarterfinals level, probably. LN map. That is surprising to me. This is a great team all around, but that score is surprisingly good.
I think for most of us, when we saw this South Korean team, we were just thinking, yep, it's Transcendence from last year, and then 5 new boys. So we don't know how they'll do, but they definitely surprised me in that stage 5.
Very impressive. And we're moving on from South Korea. We have the all-bearing crazy tag China.
For the first time ever, all 6 players being from the Crazy Clan.
And a top-seeded Chinese team here. Great battery of scores throughout. Not the biggest of weakness there. We have a slight poking of weakness there in Garyu Tensei, but all the scores throughout, just a really, really good representation of this Chinese team being pretty solid where it counts.
Yeah, definitely. You can definitely see that also on like stage 8 and stage 4 as well. Like early game LN and mid game Rise, they excel at.
I'm definitely interested in seeing how Sunny and Kaisium do as new players.
Alright, we're going on to seed number 5. This is the biggest glow up in the history of World Cup, I'll just say that. This is a team that were unseeded last year. They were knocked out of group stage. This year, slam into 5th place.
To go from unseeded and explode your way into top seed in this day and age where everyone is absolutely ridiculous deserves a different kind of commendation here. Vietnam in seed number 5, top 5 on stage 8 and stage 2. A good mix of scores throughout. And this is a very threatening team. just top to bottom.
Extremely threatening. Like, I thought last year they were looking really cool and they didn't make it out of the knockout stage. This year, this is like a huge step up for them. And just seeing like on their stage 2, their stage 8, they're beating out some teams that I thought would get higher on those maps. So Vietnam definitely a surprise package.
All right, but as we move up here, we have our top 4. And this one, I am so happy to see. I am so happy to see
we
Malaysia
get to see our
this
first
high.
ever, our first spot on one of the stages.
Yeah, Malaysia getting number 1 seed on long notes, probably surprising exactly nobody with how good they are at long notes.
I wonder who it might be. Who could be the first name of that team?
But again, just fantastic scores all throughout here. Kaleidoscope, a number 2 seed, barely missing the top on that one as well. But also, look at the bottom. A beautiful degeneracy, top 3. This team can cover just about anything. They gain a little bit of depth as well on the early game with Leon, who's a new face to MWC. Not new to the tournament scene, but they had their showing in the Springtime Most Mania Free-For-All tournament, and they had some very good long notes as well, so fitting the Malaysia squad perfectly.
Yeah, they are not going to be a one-trick pony at all. They have a lot of bases covered. But now we're going into the podium places here, top 3. We have our champions. 3rd spot. Look at the number 1 rankings. And they are still 3rd.
3 number 1s and 2 number 2s. 5 of the 8 scores being 1st or 2nd. But getting a little bit inhibited by the stage 8 and stage 1 results there.
Yeah, their stage 1 definitely fell off a little bit. I thought they had a good stage 1. And then people and teams started getting better stage 1s. And I was like, oh no. Yeah, Brazil gonna fall off a little bit on the seeding. But I mean, yeah, stage 3, 4, and 6, I think they explained for themselves.
Really good squad here too. We have a couple of new faces here in Light and Len. Len being a 4-digit Mania World Cup powerhouse. I'm very happy to see them here on Brazil's actual team. And then Light, who I had to look a little bit to find them, but they're a pretty good player themselves. They've got some good accuracy and a range to boot for being able to play with good accuracy. So Brazil, not the same squad that you guys might be used to, but still championship worthy and very threatening.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be in the running to retain their title again. We're going to move on to the seed number 2. Higher than Brazil by 0.05 rating is the United Kingdom.
And 2 number 1 scores by these guys. 2 number 2 scores as well. Phonedrome and Mariucci Survivor, these guys love their constant, unrelenting stuff, huh?
Yeah, but even so, like their worst placement in any of the maps is Garyu Tensei at 7th. This is super all-rounded.
Yeah, it is. They're showing that they can actually hang pretty well, not just on the Rice, which United Kingdom has been traditionally a pretty well-rounded unit with a little bit of a lean toward Rice, but they're closing that gap a little bit and starting to say, hey, no, we don't want to say leaning anymore. We are the unit. We can do this. We're the team that can do it all.
Yeah, they're definitely putting in work on the anti-meta stuff. And of course, last but not least, you want to take this one?
Oh, why the hell not? Rounding up the top of the Oceania 4Key World Cup qualification is the United States, taking number 1 on SV, number 1 on the stage 8 pick, 7 of the 8 scores in the top 3. And I don't think too much more can be said about the unit that is the United States this year. This is a team unlike it's hard to explain. This team is ridiculous.
Yeah, this team is really ridiculous. I mean, last year they finished top 6. I'm pretty sure they were pretty disappointed because their squad last year were really good.
Yeah,
but
you know, that's something I would like to say too. United States arguably, up until now, probably had the best team that they'd ever had in 2020, and somehow ended up earlier than normal. And this team is better than that, and that is just absolutely terrifying to think about.
Very, very terrifying squad. Just every single player playing a part.
But with that, you guys have your top 32 teams who are going to be participating in the Oceania World Cup 2021. And with those teams being announced, we have our matchups already as well. You know, no having to wait for how group deltas work, no having to wait about this, that, or the other. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, we got some very interesting matchups. I mean, in the middle of the pack, we have France versus Peru, which is 16 versus 17. That's going to be very fun to watch.
There are so many teams in places that are not where I expected, and it's making for matchups that I think are going to be a little bit more intense than intended as well.
Yeah, like Vietnam definitely showing up. That's definitely one that comes to mind.
Yeah, that has been the announcement of the seeds. I'm not sure if we're going to be announcing the matches or if it's going to be showing up. I mean, I guess we can always do that as well. Sitting here just waiting for a little bit more in the way of instructions here, but if you guys have not caught the seeds or anything along those lines, if you know what your seed is, essentially it's going to be 33 minus your seed. That's your opponent. So we've got 1 versus 32 in the United States versus Belgium. And then we've got 2 versus 31, which is going to be United Kingdom and Colombia. 3 versus 30, which is Brazil and Germany. 4 versus 29, which is Malaysia versus Switzerland. 5 versus 28, which is going to be Vietnam and Finland. 6 versus 27, which is going to be China and Venezuela. That's going to be an interesting one, actually.
Oh.
7 versus 26, which is South Korea versus Sweden.
We need to talk about this. South Korea and Sweden.
That is
played before.
That's a group stages rematch from last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh boy. I think they've also met in 2018, and Sweden managed to take 2 points off them.
Yeah, that was a hell of a time. I remember everyone freaked out about that, and as they should have.
I was freaking out.
We've got 8 versus 25 in Taiwan, 9 versus 24. Sorry, Philippines and Taiwan for 8-25. Canada versus Australia, seed 9 versus 24. Singapore versus Poland. That is another matchup that could be absolute insanity there. That's seed 10 versus 23.
Yep.
Chile versus the Netherlands, 11 versus 22. Hong Kong versus Russia. That's another matchup that could actually be pretty interesting too, I think.
That's a coin toss. I mean, all these matches that are coming up now are pretty much a coin toss to me.
Yeah, as we start getting closer to the convergence of the bracket here, the matches start to get closer and closer as they should be. And that was 12 versus 21 with Hong Kong and Russia. And then we have 13 versus 20, Japan versus Spain. 14 versus 19, Indonesia and Argentina. That's another one that could go down to the wire, I think.
Yeah, definitely, especially for round of 32 stage.
Yeah. Thailand versus Italy for 15 versus 18, and then your last match for round of 32, not chronologically, but just the last match to be announced here, is France versus Peru, 16 versus 17.
Yeah, those are the 16 matches that will happen next weekend.
But with that announcement, I think it's time we move on to the second part of this stream here. To that, we're going to have new commentators to reveal the round of 32 Mappool Showcase.
We have Juan Crystal and Toph Daddy. Y'all can take it away.
Hello. Yes, it is I, Toph Daddy. I'm here along with Juan Crystal. If he would like to introduce himself now.
Hello. I'm Juan Crystal. What's up?
Yeah. So we will be getting right into the round of 32 Mappool Showcase. As Halogen was explaining the matchups, this will be the map pool that all of those teams will be playing against each other. Before we get into the Mappool Showcase, I should mention that no team is going to be eliminated in this stage. All 32 teams will be moving on to the next round, but the winners, this first round will be splitting the field into a winners and a losers bracket. So 16 people will be in the winners bracket, and so the winners of each match will be moving on to the winners bracket. The 16 losers will be moving on to the losers bracket to face each other in the round of 16 map pool, which we'll get to next week. But with that, we should have, I think, everything ready to go for the round of 32 Mappool Showcase.
I believe so. We're going to be starting then with a different layout of maps, as not as the one we are used to. We're going to showcase first the Rise, and we will start with this. The words I never said in DNV. This is a map by Joel, OD8, HP8. The star rating of... Wait, this is not the map.
This is not the right map. You're not.
This is not the right map.
This is
Never
not.
mind.
No, we're not on that one. We are on a map by Electon. This is iterated 212 BPM jump stream, and that's it. That's all we're looking at right now.
All right. Then it is just the wrong order got delivered to me, which is fine. It happens sometimes.
It happens. The order should be in, it should be where it is. But I have the right order, so I can go through this correctly. But like I said, this is just going to be jump stream. That's all we're going to be seeing. It's pretty dense. There is a pretty heavy usage of trills, which can be pretty stamina draining, even though this map is only 2 minutes long, and there is a pretty significant break in the middle, as we're about to get to. But stamina is going to be an issue, especially for some of the weaker teams or I guess weaker players, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see the kinds of accuracy battles we'll be seeing in the round of 32 for this.
This is an interesting pick. I was not expecting to go this fast to the 210 plus range. I was expecting maybe around 16 to be the point where we get that fast. So it's interesting to see a jump stream, although it's fairly basic, right? It's just jump stream.
Yeah,
and it's not all that dense.
Right. I think this year is definitely going to be a stamp of we're making these map pools harder, or at least we're making the early rounds harder, is what I'm getting from this list of maps. Because last year's jump stream pick was, I believe, like 180 BPM, which is a whole 30 BPM slower than this. And so there is a lot more physicality that's going to be needed for these picks if we're going to take this first map at face value.
All right, I think I have the order right this time. We're going to go for 7.
Yes, that is the right map.
We
are seeing this.
Kishiraki 7. This is a map by No, it's not. It's a map by Paturage. And the difficulty is Heptaplex. There we go. This, if I recall correctly, would be... Let me check. I'm pretty sure this is a hybrid.
That's what it's starting to look like at the beginning. We're having some pretty simple long note patterns with some, I guess, techie kind of jack patterns at this first quarter mark. Although this is really short, 1 minute and 50 seconds, even shorter than the previous map. So
the fact that it's 300 BPM, even though it's not, but...
Yeah, 304. This is 304 BPM, guys. Look how fast this is.
Well, so far it looks pretty tame. It will take some time to get used to the snaps mostly, but other than that, it's just this intrusive lens that are going to prove to be the most difficult or more challenging part to get good accuracy throughout, especially those coordination sections when you have to hold the second and fourth column and like hit some notes in the third one. Those particular partners in general are hard to get good accuracy, perhaps some misses as well. Oh, on this section specifically, very 100 trilly, especially on the left hand.
In general, I think this pick is going to be a big. It's not like physically difficult as far as hybrids are usually concerned for if we were to compare it to something like Iterated at this point, as in terms of the Rice expectation, but it's going to be tricky, and that's going to be the name of the game. So getting good accuracy on this, even with OD7, accuracy is going to be a really big hitter when it comes to performing well on this.
Absolutely. This looks way harder than Burned Rice as well, so we'll have to see. That's probably the stage you want to compare with this map if you want to scout the other teams, but I will imagine we'll see lower scores overall on this compared to the qualifier stage.
Lower? Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. We'll see. I think Burnt Rice is in a special place because that has some... I think the patterns are definitely trickier in Burnt Rice, but it's definitely a lot less physically demanding.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And next, we'll be getting into our first pure long note chart. It's going to be I'm guessing that this is the density pick. It's going to be Stupid Man's Toadestreeb, which I have had the pleasure of playing multiple times as a map selector testing, and as a player in an AMT, because this on rates was actually used in that tournament. So it's very tricky as a density pick. I wouldn't peg this as like fully density. There's going to be a lot of reading troubles that you have with this.
Mostly coordination issues, I think. Those anchors are no joke.
They really are, and especially with how short they like. I think one of the biggest things that's going to get people with respect to at least that intro right there is the fact that those anchors are shorter long notes than the other long notes. So coordinating that, like, those releases are going to be a little bit trickier than you'd expect from a density pick.
This is kind of similar to like Ganryo Tensei, right? Just like way slower. And more anchory than Ganryo Tensei. Ganryo Tensei is more like streamy. In this one, although it is density, I'll still call it more coordination. We will eventually get the streams, of course, but
those happen in the second half.
Yeah. We have a little bit of a break here as well to recover some stamina in case you need it to face the last portion.
Yeah, some awkward rhythms shouldn't be too difficult, at least in comparison to everything else. But like, yeah, here are the streams that we're talking about. They're a little more comparable to those faster sections of Ganryo Tensei, but again, a lot slower, a lot easier to handle.
Yeah, but they're tricky to read. There are like many trills that are maybe a little bit unexpected in some portions, especially one-handed in some instances that can be very difficult to get accuracy out of. And you can easily just misread one and hit a 50 or even a miss.
Yeah, and this section in particular, I think, is pretty hard to get the releases right. It only lasts a couple seconds, but it is enough that you can drop 200s if you're not paying attention to where the releases need to be.
Absolutely. I'll say you should probably check the editor for that last bit. It will make it so much easier to hit.
So it's going to be similar to the ending of Ganryo Tensei that you're going to want to look at.
Exactly.
But next pick, number 4, another Rice pick. This is going to be more of a streamy kind of techie pick. It's kind of hard to really categorize it.
I like XD, so essentially
it's I like XD. If you play FFR, you know this chart. You've seen it before. Actually, as long as I'm thinking of the right chart, I'm pretty sure that this is the one from Flash Revolution. But it's our first pure tech chart, I think, of the pool. It's got a lot of focus on bursts, but there's a lot of transitions with mini jacks that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Like, we're starting off with a more technical section at the start, but as we get going, there will be some bursts and streams that are going to probably be, for some people, the most difficult part of the chart.
Again, this is kind of comparable with Stage 2 to some degree. Albeit a little bit easier, I will say. Although some of the jacks could be a bit more tricky.
Yeah, I would maybe call this easier than Stage 2. It's kind of hard because they're a little bit different in how they're trying to test this kind of like, you know, all-round wild card tech kind of slot.
Although I expect this map to be like one of the highest average scores alongside the jump stream pick we saw before.
But I think the jump stream chart is just going to be like blasting everything else out of the water.
Like, if you see the match between Chile and I think it's Netherlands, they're just going to destroy the first map. And this one probably too. Honestly.
Yeah, and this ending is where more of the bursty kind of thing comes in. We saw that stream earlier with patented high 19 patterns, because I believe this is a collab between I Like XD and High 19. but those bursts at the end, finishing off the chart. So it's got a bit of a few different types of things you got to pay attention to.
Absolutely, I wouldn't be surprised if we see sub 50s on that map specifically. And now we go to the map I spoiled before.
Whoops.
Whoopsies, which is the word I never said in the and V. It's a map by Joel. This time 1.05 rate though, 181 BPM. And if I know Joel, I will say this is probably the speed stream.
Yeah, that's what I would expect coming out of it. Like, I've never seen this chart, but seeing the name Joel and 181 BPM, you could see maybe a 240-ish BPM stream card coming. And there it is. we're exactly what we're predicting.
Okay, this is very flowy, as expected from Joel. It's probably one of the most fun maps to play for most people, I'm imagining, because it's on this point that it's not fast enough to be like streamy. Like you don't have to mini jack all that often. But most of the time it's very flowy and you can like go through them.
Right, I think Joel tends to do that with his speed charts, where most of the chart like is going to be pretty flowy and you don't have to strain super hard. But when like significant things happen, like vocals come in, then you see those like camel jacks showing up in the middle of the streams, and that's where the strain is really going to matter, and that is exactly what's happening in this chart too.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Here I Go Again or On My Own, those kind of maps as well.
Yeah.
Which are like
what we have seen from it.
Yeah.
But this is
little section of break as well.
Yeah. This is the easiest out of the three we've just mentioned.
I'll say that Here I Go Again is about the singles, maybe a little bit faster. So
it's definitely faster, but it's also longer, which makes it hard.
True.
And this one's only a minute and 54. Yeah, we haven't seen all of them. I think have been less than 2 minutes, except for Iterated and maybe Totus Street.
Yeah, but just barely, right?
Yeah, they were like 2 minutes and 5 seconds each or something. I would assume we're going to see some longer charts somewhere along the line, but given it's an early pool, making these easier pools have super long charts isn't really going to be beneficial to the overall, especially if there's too many of them.
Yes, I would be surprised if we don't see like at least 2 maps that are long enough. And this one might be the beginning, right?
We're starting to get there.
This map, this is SV. This is SV. Let's go.
Oh, it is SV, isn't it? Patcherage, the creator of the SV qualifier, is back again, making another SV chart for this pool. 2 minutes and 37 seconds, though, a little bit longer than the qualifiers, and so far the longest map we've seen in the pool.
True. Runes, this is by Sasakura UK, map by Patcherage, as we said before. Shambles.
Yeah. This far, it's looking like the reading pick between the 2 SV charts that are going to be in this pool.
I like this map so far. It's like one of those maps that if you know the song well enough, you can mostly side with this. Like
I was wondering why I knew the song. It's a Toby Fox. It's a remix of a Toby Fox song.
Yep.
So
I think the most challenging so far was like that long no into double pattern.
Yeah, there are some tricky patterns. Like these LNs into the notes are a little bit tricky, but like I said, it's reading, so there are little hints that allow you to, like the length of the long notes should give you an idea of the timing of the next note, but it's still going to be pretty tricky.
Oh, I love that part. Oh no, the snaps. Oh, that can be very confusing. That part right there can be very confusing if you're just side reading this.
And we're hitting the halfway mark right about now. Despite this being over 2.5 minutes long, there are only 1,000 notes, which means that misses are going to matter a lot in this chart.
It's very low density overall. Most of it is single streams and isolated doubles or isolated hands. So for the most part, this is really just a rhythm. Like you just have to follow the rhythm. I mean, you could say it's that to literally any map on a rhythm game, but this one specifically, if you know the song well enough, it's probably going to help you a lot to get good accuracy on this. Just don't get tricked by the visuals and try to follow the music and you should be fine.
Yeah, this isn't going to take too much learning, I don't think. It's just going to, you play it a few times, get used to the rhythms and the visual gimmicks that are going on, and you should be able to get this down pretty quickly.
Oh, that one's also a bit tricky, I think, right? There was like a drum hit that was very strong, but it was only a single, and I think it was following the music after that portion. So those parts can be a bit confusing as well.
Yeah, but we are heading out to the end of the chart. The gimmicks are about to be complete, and that is our first SV chart of the pool, and we'll be moving into another rice chart, I would assume. I'm gonna guess because of the person who created this.
There's no way Electon made that. Anything that isn't rice, right?
Yeah, this was also used in an Eterna pack, in the Untitled Eterna pack, because I recognize.
Wait, this is classified as a hybrid.
Is it?
Yes,
Interesting.
it is.
I can see it. I can see it. We'll see how this goes.
For those who were wondering, this is Sakusio's Pandora Paradox. There it is.
There it is. 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Average of about 150 BPM. It looks like it changes a little bit throughout it, though. But given the creator, if this is a hybrid, this is probably going to be the rice hybrid, whereas the one we saw earlier, 7, is definitely the more long note focused hybrid.
True. There is still one more hybrid to go through, though, so there's 3 this time.
Also, these patterns are extremely difficult, and wow, I was not expecting these to be. Given that this is a hybrid, I'm very surprised at how difficult these patterns are. That anchor is going to be pretty tricky. Probably going to be a pretty significant point of contention for the players who are, or like for the teams who are able to handle the more difficult charts. I think this is going to be really favored by like the more physically capable teams.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see this map being banned quite frequently, honestly.
I could absolutely see that too.
Like, this is a hybrid that I don't really find it too hybridish, although some of those releases can be a bit tricky. You saw with it that it was a very short long note and a shield on top of it, so it can be tricky. You could drop some 200s along the way, but because the Rice pattern is so much harder than everything else, I expect just most Rice teams to be able to push through it. Yeah. Although misses can happen on those minor sections where you have some intrusive lands, especially the shorter ones can be a bit tricky.
Being in a full-on like Rice accuracy kind of mindset can really push you into a weird place, especially when those LN patterns start showing up, even if they're not like particularly difficult. Oh, and these anchors are not going to be very friendly to some players.
I like them though. They seem very natural to play too.
Those bursts were not friendly.
Oh, that one. Okay, no. What was that ending? No.
It's better. It's easier to hit than phone drums ending. I'll put that out there. But that's a lot. Wow.
Yeah, that was a split-handed trill, like split-handed double trill. That was very tricky. Or at least it looked that way.
And next pick, Gaspard de la Nuit, Undine, a re-upload by Mint to cut this. It's not the 7-minute chart, or however long the actual one is. This was cut to about 3 minutes, so it looks like this is going to be more of like our consistency and accuracy pick that we're looking at in comparison to everything else in the pool. And I think knowing the chart and seeing the note count, it is going to be a bit lighter than the other Rice charts that we've seen so far. So this is definitely going to be a big accuracy, focus on the snaps, focus on getting, your Rainbow 300s. Missing shouldn't be happening that often on a map like this, but it's 3 minutes. So you just have to keep your focus going and make sure that you get your accuracy down as much as you can.
Well, so far what I can see from this map is you have eventually some like faster snaps, and if you go with this like turbo accuracy mentality, sometimes you just press the key so lightly that you like miss it. So it's gonna take a bit of time, I think, to find that balance between, okay, I have to get good accuracy, but I cannot afford a miss, because this map so far doesn't look tricky enough for players to just randomly choke on it, or like physically choke on any pattern like we saw in the previous one, right? The ending was
that pattern was a bit. That pattern right there was a bit much, but I do agree with you. But like you were saying, like we're kind of focused. They're going to be focusing a lot on accuracy. They're not really going to be focusing on misses, because it's more than likely that the teams are going to be physically capable enough to full combo this without much issue. But I think on the other end of that, if people are trying too hard to get accuracy and they're hitting the keys really hard, that can you know, if you're focusing too hard, reading issues can come into play, even with how, you know, how little density there is in this chart. But also just hitting the keys in a weird way can make your fingers go in very strange directions. As a player, it's hard to describe the kind of phenomenon you feel when you're trying too hard to accuracy and you just flub something. But it can happen if you're going too hard on it.
Yeah, it happens to me as well. Like, you're so concentrated on the accuracy and reading it that your finger just slips a little bit from the key and everything feels so much different. On this ending, it's a little bit trickier, I will say, although the pattern is not too bad. It definitely goes faster, and that might be a good thing to get your focus back, but still, a potential choke point, especially for those lower seeded teams.
Yeah, timing is going to be big. Timing is going to be a big deal on this. Especially with that OD of 8.
True. I will expect this kind of maps in later stages to just be OD 9, and that will be very harsh. For now, OD 8 seems fine enough.
And it looks like we'll be getting into our
have some
last
flashbacks
one.
now.
Is this our last long note pick?
I think it is, and we're having some flashbacks already. Those from Soft 1. Raise your hands in the chat.
No, not Soft 1.
Oh, Soft 2, that was. It was Soft 2, yeah, that's true. We have Harajuku Iyahoi, and this is a long note pick. Again, this is releases, as you can tell by the first 5 notes.
Yeah, it's definitely, this is very clearly going to be what's going to test your releases. And I think the second half is really going to be what matters most significantly with that.
I remember back on Soft 2, this song, they had a map of long notes as well. It was by Alefi, and everyone struggles so hard on it, and this is so much harder already. Although it's very similarly structured so far, like those longer anchors that are very hard to time because of the low BPM, and it really oh wow, okay, those ones on the left hand are super tricky too.
Don't put those on the same hand.
Yeah, on 128 BPM, which is slow enough that you can't really cheese those releases, you have to actually have such an insane finger coordination, finger independency to release it properly. This is my map. I love this, but I can see why people will not love this in a tournament.
I think this is going to get a hefty amount of bans.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this section is a little bit easier, I'll say. The releases are all pretty, like, combined. I don't know how to say it, right? They all end at the same time. You don't have disjointed releases for the most part. And if they are, you have a press at the end. Oh, other than that.
Now we're starting to get into disjointed releases.
Now we're getting
like I said, the ending's going to hit you. I said more of the second half, but the ending is really what matters. Because this goes on for another quarter of the map, which is about 30 seconds, and it doesn't give you a break.
This is an insane score by Mysterium, by the way. 996.5 on this. Looks very hard to do. I like this map, though. I think it will be the most banned map of the pool, but...
yeah, I could see it being the most banned
map so
map
far.
Of the pool. We've got 3 more regular maps of the pool. 1 Rice, 1 Hybrid, 1 SV in that order. We've got Shoegazer's Axle Grinder, which, as you might expect, is one of the... I think it's the Rice pick. I would make an educated guess that this is going to be a tech chart or a stream chart of some kind. Now this is 2 minutes and 44 seconds. This looks like more of our stamina pick out of anything. If you could call anything a stamina chart in round of 32 for the most part.
190 BPM though, fairly slow. So it's probably more like a dense Rice rather than stamina specifically, I would say.
I think this is like comparable to Tower of Heaven from last year, where it's more of like the dense jump stream, goes on for a really long time. You need to focus for a longer time. Whereas, you know, Iterator
IOD as well.
Jump stream. Yeah, that too.
So far it looks pretty tame though. I imagine this is, so far at least, easier than Tower of Heaven. Specifically because of the 8.5 and not the 9. And also I think it's a little bit less relentless, like you have more breaks in between the patterns and it's not as dense, I think, as it was.
Tower of Heaven was very dense. I think I think Tower of Heaven was like 170, 180. So it's a little bit slower. So this one's a little bit faster, but it's going to be a little bit less dense. and well, I wouldn't say really less constant, because Tower of Heaven just has two sections that
just endless.
Yeah, this one is probably going to be going on for a bit longer overall, each of the sections that have these like longer strings of jump stream. But like you said, they're less dense, they're a little bit less tricky pattern-wise. And I would say that they're a little bit easier to read.
Yeah, you don't have many instances of like one-handed trills, and it's mostly flowy, like you don't have much difficulty there. Like you have eventually those 1-4 doubles that go after each other, but most of the time they're pretty predictable considering the music. So I wouldn't say we will see many issues from teams in this. Like this is the kind of map I would expect 6-way double S's.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be one of those charts that we see like a lot of double S's and really good accuracy on.
You can easily just tunnel vision throughout this entire chart. That doesn't have anything that can surprise you or catch you off guard. It's pretty constant. Although sometimes the density picks up, is really something you can easily tunnel vision throughout it all and do very well on it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty popular pick. It's a lot more approachable, I think, than Tower of Heaven was last year, but it's also like easy. It's difficult enough and in the patterns that it can be a really interesting point of contention for certain teams. But that's our last Rice pick. Going into the last hybrid, Destroy, the happy end.
You missed the Destroy. There was 3.
I don't care. They got the point. And this is a cut version of the ranked one by Mint. And yeah, it is pretty fast. 218 BPM.
This looks fairly hard. I mean, I'm just judging on star ratings. I shouldn't be doing that. But if I remember correctly, you said this is like a cut for the rank version?
Yes.
This is a pretty tricky map then.
It is the first half of the ranked map, it looks like.
Those shields are very tricky, and those transitions are also very hard to hit.
Yeah, this is starting to look like potentially the hardest map overall in the pool to score on. I mean, even seeing Mifa's score of 993k, that's pretty telling of how difficult this chart might be in comparison to like the other maps in the pool, especially as a hybrid.
Yeah, I will say that bump of 0.5 in the OD for 7.5 instead of 7 makes a big difference as well. Those releases are pretty hard too. The shields help a little bit when it comes to those releases, although it makes it harder to combo, it makes it a little bit easier to accuracy, at least for me. But the fact that they're disjointed also makes it very hard to just hit overall, especially on the tournament pressure. So I can see this map, not sure if being banned a lot, but mostly being ignored. I don't think this is going to be the best choice for many teams. It would be those closer matchups when you're like 3-3 and you need to make a bold decision to go for this.
Yeah, I think so. This is going to be definitely like a match decider, or it's going to be one of the charts that like more physically. The more physically better teams should capable. The more capable teams would want to choose something like this to
But it's mostly the intro, right? The second half of the song, although it's a little bit denser, it's pretty simple pattern. Like those jump trails, for example, are not that hard unless you like mistime them. It's mostly the intro that is pretty tricky, and some odd releases every now and then with those hands, especially the very short ones, can be tricky.
Yeah, but still probably an ignored. Why does this have extra notes at the
end? You have a quad at the end? No, we have that at the end.
Still, make sure to pay attention to that in the match. But like I said, I think that looks like the hardest map of the pool overall.
Oh, we have this chart that has been reused so many times already.
This is our last SV chart. This is the memorization one. Shout out to Soft 4, I think. Yeah, and Soft 4.
It was a French qualifier, right? A long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
This is a very... I mean, I won't say this is a very easy chart, but I have seen it so often that I kind of know it by memory already. I played it so many times that it feels easy to me, but it can be a bit challenging, This intro, so long as you follow like the beeping noises, those are the main ones that you have to take care of. the rest of the chart is not really all that hard until you reach the middle part, right? There was like a middle portion where you have the long note releases, right? That one,
Yeah,
tricky to get.
they can be tricky, but this is this is round of 32 memorization pick. It's not going to be terribly difficult to get everything down, but there are going to be a lot of little tricky things that you're going to want to focus on in practice and make sure that you're not going to mess up in a match. This part, for example, getting those releases down right and making sure that you don't mess it up when those ending SVs change a tiny bit.
Oh, that pattern can also be hard to read. If you're sight reading that, you're probably gonna miss. And that jump there, like those 3 doubles in a row, are also a bit tricky if you don't know the song beforehand, because they are off sync compared to the rest. And this transition as well. After that, the rest of the chart is fairly straightforward. I don't think there are many SVs left at this point. It's mostly just accuracy this last bit of rise.
Yeah, so just get through that first 3 quarters and you're mostly home free. I'm not sure if there's an SV at this ending.
Yeah, there are some
part.
bumps at the end with triples and that's it. Or doubles.
Oh yeah, this section repeated from the beginning. And another SV chart with very low note count, which is notable. So don't miss. It's going to do a lot to your score.
Yeah, easy. Just don't miss.
Just don't miss. All right, and that is the final pick of the pool outside of the tiebreaker, and we've already got it on screen. Camellia Prolovies. We're starting off strong with the Camellia tiebreaker already, just like last year. And this is the no SV version. Thank you.
No. I think the SVs would have made this map a little bit too hard for the stage.
100%.
So it makes sense that the SVs got removed. I would have preferred the SVs being nerfed instead of removed, but I can see why. This is a tricky release section, and in general the map features this kind of hard releases when the long notes come into place. But overall it's a pretty balanced tiebreaker as far as I remembered.
Yeah, I think it does a pretty good job as a tiebreaker. It's very difficult. Like, for this round, you would not expect to see something as hard as this coming in. But this is just, like I said at the beginning, these sets of map pools are going to be getting a little bit harder than they have been in the past. I think at least the early rounds are. And this map should be telling about what to expect in round of 16.
Yeah, in general, I'm honestly quite surprised by the goal I got on the Jacks. I'm quite surprised by the difficulty that we have achieved for this one, right? Round 32 are really looking very spicy. I can see many low-seeded teams struggling hard on this kind of map. Really.
I can definitely agree. I could see lots of teams struggling on many of the picks in these pools.
And I'm not really concerned. I don't think concern is the word, but I'm curious, how hard will the map pool get, right? If we're around 32 and the pools are already this hard, what will finals look like?
I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the pools as they go forward.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about this World Cup. I think we saw a lot of surprises on the seeding department, and although I think the top 4 teams are a bit clear, the rest is a big question mark for me.
Yeah, but it's all going to end up coming down to how the teams perform in bracket for this, right? So nothing's really set in stone at this point, and lots of teams have shown potential that I personally did not expect coming out of qualifiers even last night when I finished them. I came out with the scores that the United States did, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I think we're pretty safely in the top, 3 or 4. And looking at the scores that were posted for, even up to like top 16, top 24, top 32, I was wrong. Very wrong about our safety as far as, seeding and how good all of these teams are.
We're not really talking all that much about the map. We're letting the map speak for itself, but as you saw back then, it was mostly... We are about to enter the climax of the song, right? But that transition over there before was pretty tricky overall. There are many jacks that you can easily miss, and specifically this transition as well. The mini jacks are a little bit less punishing, although it will take some time. But now we're getting into the final long note section. Some pseudo inverse patterns over here. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Kaleidoscope. So teams that struggle with that one will probably struggle with this section.
More of a density kind of area as far as long notes. The rest of the chart has been like kind of this mixed hybrid kind of thing where a lot of it was, tech and streams and, difficult patterns like that, with every now and again there were long notes strewn in, but that section is really going to be where the long note part of, team skill set's going to come into play.
The good part about all this is that it's fairly slow at 162 BPM, so the jacks are not as punishing, although 162 mini jacks are fairly fast.
Yeah. It's also not as long as many tiebreakers we've seen in previous years. It's only 4 minutes and 19 seconds, not the 7 minutes we saw last year. So it's not going to be as painful to practice, especially for the higher end teams that, might not want to play a groups or a round of 32 level map for 7 minutes straight.
Yeah.
So
I'll say though that this stage we might not see that many tiebreakers. Although I'm not sure, right? We have matchups like France, Peru, Argentina, Indonesia. Even those like Canada and Australia could be close. But in general, I feel that the first stage of the tournament is usually pretty unbalanced. But now with the seedings in place, perhaps those in the middle can be a little bit more of a close battle, right? We might see some tiebreakers.
I mean, that's kind of like what we'd expect out of the seeding, right? So I mean, we've already talked. I think Halogen and Raviel already talked quite a bit about a few matchups that are looking really interesting, especially when it comes to those middle seed areas, like France, Peru in particular. I'm looking forward to watching, not just because that would be
the closest seed.
That would be the next matchup after the U.S. versus Belgium, whether we win or not. Whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's going to be a lot of close matches in this round of 32, a lot closer than, what we might have expected in previous years from round of 16, given, how the round of 16 was set up, the bracket stage was set up in previous years. So I'm kind of excited to kind of just see what happens.
So am I, but we will have to wait a week for that, as the teams now know that qualified or not, the 32 remaining will have to train as much as they can, because next weekend we will have the matches. There will be the schedule posted, I believe, in about a couple hours. Really, the schedule, as far as I know, already
sometime soon. Sometime soon we'll see it. You'll get mentioned in the MWC server about the times. They'll be posted onto the wiki very soon after that. So schedule should be out very soon with respect to the matches that are happening next weekend. The bracket should also be up sometime soon, so you should know who everyone is facing very soon. But with that, I do not know if I have anything else to say.
Well, other than saying good luck to those who qualify to the round of 32, and I hope that all of you stick around for those matches, because as we said, there are so many interesting matches coming up next weekend, and I honestly cannot wait. I'm very excited.
Yeah, so we will see you all next week, and have a wonderful week of practice.
beasts as far as the eye can see. A plague on the surface, a disgusting swarm in the skies. With a crash of thunder, a new demon appears. Unfurling its rotten wings, it lets out a petrifying scream.